Hello, I'm Dr. Joe Johnson. Today I'm going to be talking about engagement. Now, this is not just a topic for online education because during the pandemic, a lot of traditional brick and mortar face-to-face educators were thrown into online education. And a lot of things have sort of changed a bit in even traditional, what we consider traditional education. Engagement, I see, is a big part of it. Now, part of what might help you in watching this video might also be to look at my previous videos on clarity, instructional design as engineering, and of course presence, particularly faculty presence. They all sort of fit in on this. Now, with engagement, the thing is, what is engagement with the students? How can we make it better? One of the things that happened during the pandemic is lectures were moved into the online environment. There were Zoom meetings, etc. I mean, a traditional lecture is very much a one-way thing. That's where the professor is the sage on the stage. Online education has been described as the guide on the side. Now, in traditional education, maybe it's time to start moving to that guide on the side aspect as well. Now, with the lecture, there have been people within traditional education who have found that if they did their lectures on Zoom, students actually like that better because they could actually interact, ask questions, etc. in the chat function within Zoom. Now, there are other modalities, channels, YouTube, etc. that also offer that same kind of function. But it now changes that lecture a bit. Instead of just being a one-way thing from the professor to the student, where the students can now interact on their own as well. Now, also during the same time, there were people who presented at conferences online where the presenter recorded the presentation and then were able to be in the chat and answer questions, make comments, etc. with the other people, the viewers, while they were watching the recording of the presentation. That's also something that's quite engaging and something to look at as well. Very different things that can now happen because of the technologies. Things that were being done online can be brought into traditional classes. Now, once we're getting into recorded lectures, another thing is, why do they have to be full-length lectures? One thing that was found out in online education is if a video is longer than 5 minutes, you better have a really good reason. Learners will actually start zoning out after 2 to 3 minutes. So maybe it's time to even look at shorter length messages as well if you're putting them on video, and then being able to use online course room as a form of discussion forum. Now, this is something else I've been saying for years. Let's make discussions again, because this online discussions is a great place for engagement with the learners, because they can not only interact with the faculty but also with each other. Now, in making that engagement through the online course room and the discussions, it's important to actually have well-crafted discussion questions, because one of the things that's been happening too is that discussions are turning into mini papers where there's some kind of a prompt with all these requirements, and then the students will sit there for days trying to craft this paper that they then post in, versus something more spontaneous and something that came out of maybe a piece of learning material, etc., maybe a more quicker reflection, question asking, etc., which would be a much better thing. The thing is, so maybe we need to look at how we're prompting these questions, requiring those posts, and finding ways of making or provoking the students to make better initial discussion posts. Also, how to keep them going, because it's really important for students and faculty to ask good questions back, Socratic questioning. And I think it is a good thing for students to be able to do that as well. I came up with the concept of faculty presence 20 years ago, and it's also very important for the students to have that presence as well, where they're not just this anonymous text within the course room, but that they're actually real people, and that we have these great interactions going on, these good engagements, not just between the faculty and the student, but also between the students themselves, that is centered around the learning material, pushing them up Bloom's taxonomy instead of just giving us textbook answers and rote memorization. The thing is using the material, asking questions, making people think, making people understand, and creating new knowledge. Some really good things to look at, not just in the online environment, but also traditional face-to-face education as well. How can we use these online media, discussions, etc., to maybe increase the quality of the engagement within an online course room, and also maybe using it to come back and doing something new and different in an in-person face-to-face environment. Some things to think about. I think this is a great place to start. Let's go out and engage and have a great day.